we should make a start. I would like to begin by saying a warm welcome to everyone who has made it to the seminar today. And I know that colleagues from as far as Liverpool have travelled to, and Sheffield. Lovely to have you here, yeah, from Sheffield as well, to attend this seminar. This is a great opportunity for us to be able to welcome Dr. Hari Lamsal, who is a Joint Secretary at the Ministry of Education in the government of Nepal, and I'll introduce Dr. Lamsal in detail in a minute. For those who do not know me, and I know that there are a lot of familiar faces and we've met before, my name is Tejendra Ferali. I'm Senior Lecturer in Education and International Development here at UCL Institute of Education. I'm the Research Director for the theme Education, Conflict and Peacebuilding within the Center for Education and International Development. I also convene the seminar series on education, conflict and emergencies, and this presentation will be an important contribution to that series. This seminar is being live streamed on our YouTube channel for the seminar, and also we have a network which is called Network for Research in Education, Conflict and Emergencies. Has about 3,500 followers on Facebook, and many of our colleagues in the network will be watching our seminar presentation today. And of course, you're welcome to join the network if you're interested in research in education and conflict. Today's seminar is very special to me as well, because most of my career, my work in the last decade has focused on Nepal. A few years ago I did my doctorate looking into the interrelationship between Maoist insurgencies and education in Nepal. So I started with the idea of examining the impact of violent conflict on education, but later on my work focused on how education contributed to create conditions which led to violent conflict in Nepal. Talking about educational development in Nepal, after the abolition of Rana oligarchy in 1951, and also in the context of this post-colonial sort of times, modernity and international development, so Nepal also became one of the countries which emerged with a lot of enthusiasm, with a lot of educational programs. So communities were at the center of establishing educational institutions, schools across the country. So in late 50s and late 60s, around 60s, a huge number of schools were established across the country, and access to education increased quite remarkably during that period. In 1971, a National Educational Plan was introduced, which homogenized the whole education system and took all the educational provisions under the control of the Ministry of Education. And I think during that period, there's a lot of research and analysis around that education was an important vehicle for producing the political identity of Nepali people. So which primarily focused on panchayat politics, polity, and monarchy, of course, and Hinduism. So those became the three important pillars of the Nepalese education system. So in a country which is very diverse, multilingual, multi-ethnic, and lots of indigenous nationalities, portrayal of Nepalese identity in a particular way, which represented primarily the people of high caste in hill areas, became problematic. And as a result, I think the Maoist insurgency basically capitalized on a lot of other grievances in the country, but also education being one of them. But now I think we are in a real sort of opportunity in the country with the constitution promulgated in 2015, which has change the way that education has been managed in Nepal. So it is in the responsibility of local governments. But there are also sort of enthusiasm as well as anxieties in terms of how this historical legacy of educational governance is going to be federalized, and at the same time local governments will have the capacity in order to manage the educational processes and basically govern the education sector. So we have a real opportunity here from the Ministry of Education and Dr. Hari Lamsal, who is going to talk about federalism and education policy in Nepal, challenges, dilemmas and opportunities. So Dr. Lamsal is Joint Secretary, as I said before, of Ministry of Education in Nepal. So he gained his PhD in 2014 in financing of education, particularly focusing on primary education from Kathmandu University. And he's been working with the ministry since 1987 and has a long-standing experience, has the insights of the ministry, its policy making and programming, etc., etc. And I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Lamsal when we did this political economy analysis research in Nepal in 2011. And I was always inspired by his insights. And he's been the spokesperson of the Ministry of Education and until very recently, I guess, and has talked about what is going to be the future trajectory of Nepal's educational governance in the federal context. So we have a specialist as well as a bureaucrat who is so committed to education. So Dr. Lamsal will speak about 45 minutes and then we'll have plenty of time to ask questions, give comments and have few deliberations.
Thank you, Tejan sir. I should thank you because this is an opportunity for me, and I should also thank to Ravin and one of my colleagues from India, Tata Institute of Social Science, Dr. Swati, and other colleagues are also here, and professors. You will explain about me, and I have read one book. It's called 12 Rules for Life, something like that. I talked with Ravin about it, and the book is written by Jordan B. Peterson. He talked very much about order and chaos. You know, I'm bureaucrat. I try to see the things from order perspective. Everything will be in order. But you as an academician, the same thing can be looked and can be explained in different ways. So I'm honest to raise the issues, what is happening right now in Nepal. But interpretation and explanation would be our own ways, because there is a big difference between order and chaos. Bureaucrats always tend to be in order and as a functional way. Things are in a positive manner. But let's see how can I do in this presentation about what is happening there, and I will try my best to explain it, though there are more slides, but I will state it. And I will provide some reference in some cases, and if you are interested to know about it, and later on you can also see, and you can also be in a communication later on also. Again, this is just, we know, many of us know Nepal. Just in this slide, I would like to say Nepal in terms of geography, area, this is a small one. But if you see in this slide somewhere else, in terms of language and caste ethnic group, we are very, very rich in the world. I mean, that is opportunity as well, and it could also be a challenge. Why I am referring as a challenge? If every 123 group ask education in their mother tongue, one day certainly they may ask with the government, and certainly we need to think whether will it be affordable or not. That's the thing, and other things are just figure where are we and what are we doing and all these things. Then we know the education system structure. I don't need to explain all these things. The only one thing, we do not have age-specific grade. Anybody, I mean, there are, we call it schools for household wives. In Nepal, we call it Grihini school. I mean, these are quite been seen popular in Nepal right now. Meaning that the education to whom, basic education to whom, is becoming debatable. If we talk about age group, if we talk about the compulsory education, certainly that links with the certain age group. But in our case, quite 40 years, 50 years adults are also being enrolled in grade 1, even in primary education or basic education. This is the, but now we are trying to develop the, this compulsory education bill, right to education bill, and that is being discussed in the country. And that's the, these are the system at present, and literacy, non-formal education, and lifelong learning, all these are also available throughout the lifetime. This slide speaks about, we do have higher education, both public and private institutions. Public are partially funded by, except Tirvan University, partially funded by the government. Tirvan University, majority of the funds are from the government, from the public system. Then we do also have Open University, that is also publicly funded. But there are private universities which are being run their courses through student fee. And school education, both public and private, if we see public, 85% weightage out of total enrollment, 85% are in public schools and rest 15% are in the private schools. The private schools run by fees from the parents. But what big debate is going on right now, this free and compulsory to whom? Those who are studying in public school, or this is for child. If it is child, and government should manage it wherever they go. If it is for the school, meaning right now, the provision is that if any parent, they can enroll children, if they enroll children in public school, that is free. Though there are some supports are being taken by the schools in order to run the, their programs. The literacy, lifelong learning, and technical vocational education, that stream is both formal mode, long-term academic course, we call it diploma program, and that is short-term courses are also available here. Right now, the present government aims to expand. This is already reflected in the annual program of the budget. There should be a huge expansion of technical vocational education in the country. If you see the manifesto of the present government's political party, they declare that in their manifesto 70% enrollment will be in technical vocational and the rest 30% will be in general stream. In order to do so, we need to run vocational education in 9,000 secondary schools. 9,000 secondary schools, it may require a huge amount of budget. So this year government has provision to expand such. Yeah, we have external support since 1960s. We were talking in with Robin as well. We are together with the development partners. But I should share here, results are shared, but weaknesses are fall under the head of the government. Nobody will be ready to accept whatever we have gained, this is because of us. Whatever we have not, this is because of government. These are the statements, though we are in short. We are from project mode to the, so there was one study, probably you know that this study, though we have this Indian declaration, the government has signed 4 to 6% of public budget should be for education, 15 to 20% of, that is GDP, and 15 to 20% of public budget to education. But if you see at present around 10% of public budget is being allocated for education, and 4% of GDP, around But the study which one is carried out by IIP, UNESCO and Ministry, this is education account. That one is the first report we have prepared. That report highlighted the total funding to education in Nepal, school education, not only school, total funding to education is about 9% of GDP. Almost half are being paid by the non-public. This is not private. If we say private in Nepal, this could go only for the private school. But non-public means that this is private schools, then others, parents, and other NGOs, CBO, others are also paying. This is almost double. Meaning in financing, if non-public financing is increasing, then there will be a certain question of equity. Because education is, if it is taken as a public goods, then that should be borne, that should be taken care of by the government. What we have achieved till now, just I can cite one example. Chris Cummings, who was an advisor of the teacher education project in Nepal, and he was involved in one of the project evaluation, midterm evaluation. It was in 2012. The project was School Sector Reform Program. And he was there, though it was a difficult time for the Ministry of Education because there were a lot of issues about the irregularities of that fund, misuse of fund raised by the commission of this CIEA, we call it, body which look after all this abuse of power and authority. And the report was good. Then I asked with the Chris, why did you prepare such report? Is it for to please the donor or to please the government? And his answer was to me, and he was there in 2002 in Nepal, and he came back in 2012. This is 1 decade period. Then he gave me 3 examples. I went to Nepal, probably if you are, many of you know Nepal, from Kathmandu to Nepal, this is a flight of 1 hour. In 2002, there were hardly long buildings with zinc plate roof. There were hardly very few buildings which has the zinc plate. In 2012, there were so many schools, long buildings. Certainly these are the schools with the zinc plate, tin, that is the roof. The first example, in a decade, we achieved schools are expanded in a support that. If we back up that evidence with the Nepal Living Standard Survey, it tells about 96% of households are within the reach of 30-minute walking distance of the school. This is Nepal Living Standard Survey, jointly commissioned by the Central Bureau of Statistics and the World Bank. This is quite a standard methodology. There is nothing to say from government side. This is independent report, meaning that 96% household children can reach to primary schools if they walk within 30 minutes. This is expansion of schooling facilities throughout the country. Number 1 is that. Then second example he gave me at that time, when I started to work in Nepalganj city, this is Nepalganj city, I found equal number of boys and girls in the state who are going to school. We can explain that things as a gender parity. He gave the quite interesting example, and gender parity in school education, gender parity is almost, equal number, and in terms of population size, both boys and girls are being enrolled in school education. Number 2, he gave that example. This is gender parity, we can justify from data. Number 3, whichever school he visited, there were female teachers which were not before 10 years. Meaning participation of female teachers, participation of other groups teachers are in the school. Now, there will be very few schools which do not have female teachers, in small size schools maybe. So there are several ways we can explain the achievement in a qualitative way. And there are some ways we can explain. Net enrollment rate, this is about 97%. Survival rate, this is about 88%. Internal efficiency, transition to the logs again of grade 6. There are different ways those can also be justified by the data. These are we achieved till now, and education is becoming the national agenda. Right now, this year we have campaign for the compulsory education, though we do not have bill right now, but it should be before the this 2000 has been 2 means around September, October, we should Parliament should pass the compulsory education bill, because it is mentioned in the fundamental rights of the Constitution. Within 3 years, there should be a compulsory bill. And now we requested everybody, can you take the volunteer way about the guardianship of the child who are not in school. I mean, Prime Minister to Minister to, somebody says this is the popular agenda, but at least people are aware about the education, and they tend to provide push for the compulsory education in the country at the moment. There are other ways. But there are challenges as well. What are the challenges? It can be explained in different ways. English is becoming a decisive factor, and unequal period in public schools are also tempted to use English, but I don't think so. English is a means to improve the quality only. There are other ways as well. Now ICT is becoming also additional divider, because this requires there, but we are not able to provide that tools throughout the country. And in the past, what we did, our schools are established by the community. But now, what we experienced is unequal distribution of schools because of demand-side intervention. Schools should, now we realize that schools should be established from supply-side perspectives, and if we establish schools, basic facilities should be there. But demand-side doesn't mean that wealthier society can do good thing, can have good school, good teacher. But poorer society, that's not the case. And there are other things as well. This improve efficiency issue, I have calculated the data for 3 years. Before actual data, this is real-time data. Before 10 years, they were, let's say that 1.3 million children were enrolled in grade 1. And after 10 years, I tracked them for 3 years, three consecutive years. And about 33% are reaching to the grade 10. 67% are self-clearing on the way to grade 10. That's the big challenge, big issue for the country. There are others as well. Then, with these contexts, now we have new constitution. We are from the unitary governance to the federal structure, meaning that there are major policy departments. In education, I'm not talking about the whole country's restructuring. In education also, certainly when we move from unitary to governance to federal structure, I mean, our ministry is going to be restructured. It's already been done. Meaning it's very painful process. Like me, as bureaucrat, I have been trained by this system for 25 years. Now, I need to go to the local level, maybe. I means as a civil servant should go there. Nobody would like to go there because they are taking it as a demotion, not the promotion. And we are teaching this in university, this motivation theory and all these things. Sometimes position does also matter. They were in Kathmandu, in headquarters. Now they should go to the in the village and then right to education. And we have about 15% share of enrollment in private schools. And what will happen after, once we do have this compulsory education bill passed, and people have invested huge money in private school, and what will be their investment? These issues are to be discussed. This right to education, this is envisioned in Constitution. This is, education is taken as a public good. If it is taken, this is in constitutional statement. If it is taken as public good, it has to be funded by the state. Then we are also talking about 4 years of free secondary education is provided by law. Meaning technical vocational education will also come here. Now, if you see in Nepal, the most of the girls after grade 10, they would like to enroll in nurse, diploma in nursing program. Because if they enroll in nursing program, if they complete it, they will have chance to come here, Australia or USA. Then this is per course is about 700,000 rupees. So secondary education includes that nursing as well. Then education is also taken. If we see Schedule 9 of the Constitution, education is shared responsibility. If we see the Schedule 8 of the Constitution, school education is the exclusive right of the local government. So central, like me, I would like to take the Schedule 9. But if I am in the, we are experiencing that cases. Those our colleagues, those who are in local government structure, they are advocating for the Schedule 8. The same people, they were in the ministry in the past. Even now, those who are in the ministry or department, they are talking about the Schedule 9. Then tomorrow, that may be the big debatable thing. Higher education is the shared responsibility of the federal and provincial. What we thought that in a discussion, University Grant Commission found one committee. I was also a member of that committee. And what we thought in a discussion, there are some universities by region. Why not convert these universities as a provincial universities? And as I know that nobody would like to be a provincial university. I don't know about what will affect, whether it will affect or not, but nobody would like to be there. Meaning that tomorrow, as per the constitutional right, provincial government can establish another university there. It may have the scarce resources, and it may not be the good way to use all these things. Though university are 12, 13 present in Nepal, it might need more, but it will be a quite debatable thing. Then 7 provinces, I don't need to talk about, we all know about it, and there could be a political argument of all these categories, but these are 7 provinces. Then what process we followed to implement the federalization in Nepal till now? We have constitution, some bills were passed by the previous government, and then we have one unbundling report. That is the elaboration of the constitution's right and authorities, and how these authorities are being divided or put together in different level of government. This is that 2073 report is passed by the cabinet. Then we have, this is in chronological order. Then we have local, provincial and federal level election. Once new government came in power, and they passed some necessary legal rules, guidelines, directives, because we did not have anything to run the federal government at that time. We need to prepare the work division guideline rules for the federal government. That was passed there. Then after that, the local, provincial and federal government were set up. They were formed there. Then we started to discuss new structure at the local level and provincial level and federal level. Now the government has made a decision. If you see the Nepali newspaper, even today and the day after tomorrow, yesterday, it was saying there were 54 departments under the federal government. Such things are there, and now government has made decision on this. Then another task is about how can we rationalize the civil service personnel. Though we do have Civil Service Adjustment Bill Act, and there are provisions to send the civil service from federal level to the provincial and local level, and there are a bit hot discussion between the different cadres. In civil services, there are 10 different cadres. One is from education, next one is from health, next one is from forest, agriculture, administration, and there are issues of senior and junior who will hold the executive position, who will be the subordinate position. These issues are going on. then of course we need to prepare the new bills in line with the constitution. There are two provisions in the constitution. After the constitution approved by the parliament, within 3 years, the fundamental rights should be implemented by law. Meaning that is this 2018 September. This fundamental rights should be prepared. In order to implement the fundamental rights, there should be a law. Like we Ministry Education, we are preparing the Right to Education Bill, and that will be, this is almost final stage from the draft position. Parliament will be finalized it. From drafting team, it has almost been done. But there is another provision. After the first meeting of the new parliament, within a year, all laws should be revised and should be made in line with the constitution, which will be 2019 February somewhere else. If these are not, then these laws, these acts, bylaws will be nullified. That is the provision. Then, I try to calculate it. This is quite interesting. We have, this is the total population is about 29.6 million. I took it from old low meter somewhere else though in 2011 census it was a bit 23 million point something million. The ratio of elected representative to population is about 0.12. I don't know about this is big or small, but there are plenty of numbers which are being elected. This is a rigorous process, and almost our 820 population have one elected representative. And if you see male and female, and that is the remarkable achievement in Nepal. Almost 41% are being elected. This is 1/3 are being reserved, but in practice, this is local government and provincial. There are first directly elected and proportionately elected. There are two ways. Then federal level, the National Assembly, then President, Vice President. And this is the scenario we do have. If there was election in 1997, 98, then after we did not have election at the local level. A lot of enthusiasm are there. People are quite interested, and there is psychological pressure to the elected people as well, because everything people are asking right now in a cash, direct, in a cash modality, meaning they need to produce the results. This is the structure of federal government. There are 21 ministries, including Prime Minister Office. Then constitutional bodies are there, autonomous institutions are there, like University Grant Commission. Universities are treated as autonomous bodies. There are semi-public institutions are also there. There are other committees, structure, civil society, organization, and department. This is the federal level structure. And though we are trying to make this smaller unit, smaller size in federal level, but there are critics from the independent people or experts. Now federal level structure is becoming larger than constitution expects. That's the ministries and department. If we see the provinces, there are altogether 11 offices in every provinces. Office of the provincial chief, all these are there, and altogether 3,227 employees. This is the structure approved by the federal government. Now, there are practices seen at the federal level. They are trying to create, revisit their own structure. Meaning by constitution they can do it. Local level, another debatable things. This is the number about, there are different 9 categories at the local level by population. Why we divided into these categories? In order to, based on these categories, the structure has to be shared there. If the population is less than 25,000 in any rural municipality, and the employees number are 17 in each rural municipality, at least minimum number is 17, then total number of ward is about almost 2,270, and each ward, at least they will have 2 employees in each ward. Though this is not sufficient, but this is the existing arrangement we have prepared, its government has finalized it. Then altogether 37,000 employees are required at the local level, though this is not sufficient. If we talk about Kathmandu metropolitan city, there are about 1,000 schools. But if we see education staff could be 10. And 10 staffs, it's very difficult to manage education, school level education of the metropolitan city by 10 staffs. Tomorrow, it will be changed, but we know that. But at this moment, if we start to give high priority to the education again, then another sector will also have the same demand will come there, and others will also have the same condition. So government has made decision based on certain criteria. Later on, certainly it will be revisited as per the need and requirement. Then how the distribution of power and authority. This is quite a bit political thing. There are at least 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 5 schedules are given in the constitutions, which explicitly tell about the authority of the different levels of government. If we see Schedule 9, this is common to all 3-level government. If we see Schedule 5, this is the exclusive list of the federal government. Schedule 6, provincial government. Schedule 7, federal and provincial. I have not included here because in education there is not the common thing in Schedule 7. Schedule 8, local level government. 91 is
sorry to interrupt. I wonder what schedule means. I don't understand.
Annexes.
Okay.
In constitution, the translation is being said as a schedule. I don't know, but in academic world, we write it as a annex. Annexes.
Annex. Okay, thank you.
These are the explicit list of the different level of government, and there are other fundamental rights and policies, directives. All these are the guiding. But if you see in the fundamental right, they are not saying like local government should do this and for provincial government is for that. But schedules, annexes are designed in such a way it includes the rights and power and authority of different level of government. People may not like this chart because in Nepal some people are talking about our federalism is not in hierarchy. Federal, provincial and local government. As I told you, this could be my limitation. I try to see things from this way because federal government certainly will have some control through funding, through state policies, national policies. But if you ask academicians, some of the academicians and other people in Nepal, they may say our federalism is like in a horizontal way, not in a vertical way. They all have the equal status. The 3-level government will have the equal status and power. But if you see through funding, they do have the joint accountability towards the people. But fund transfer will be there is a law, Intergovernmental Fiscal Transfer Act, which is passed by the Parliament. It says that federal government will provide 4 types of grants to the provincial government and to the local government, and provincial governments can also provide funds to the local government. That is the act. This is not in the constitution. While analyzing the constitutional provision and existing acts, this is the way I find it. It would be the best way to explain the relationship between 3 levels of government. But this cooperation, coordination and support coexistence is explicitly written in the constitution. 3 levels of government should work together like this way. As you know that we need to prepare more than 300 law acts. But till now, these are the tools government is able to produce right now to implement this federalism. This constitution, local government operation act, intergovernmental fiscal transfer act. This is national natural resource and fiscal commission act that will distribute the revenue and excise and natural resources. Then unbundling report, civil service adjustment act and regulation, government work division and regulation. This is the working procedures of the cabinet. These are also there. Then there are some other tools which are passed by the government to improve the service delivery from 3 different levels of government. Then budget, we do have next year budget. This is the new budget and program of the new government for the next fiscal year, which will be started from July 15. If we see some of the tools we already have passed by the government, by the parliament. Some tools are existing there, like Education Act. This is there, and it will remain up to the 2019 February. If there are contradictions with the Constitution, after that period, it will also automatically be diluted, disqualified. Then we need to prepare the new education, new bills in relation to the education. Then recently government has passed National Curriculum Framework. After we did have this National Curriculum Framework 2007. Now we have passed the National Curriculum Framework, which gives the roles and authority for the provinces, federal level government, provinces, and local level government. This is in Nepali. If you like, if you have interest, then I can share with you later on. This is I don't think so I need to go in detail. This is the Constitution, what we have written, what is there. This is the fundamental rights. Education is taking as a fundamental right. Free education up to the for Dalit and disabled people. This should be free up to the higher education level. Meaning that it has huge implication in financing. Then there are other provisions. Generally, people tend to see the, if we talk about education, they will only see the education section of the Constitution. But there are other articles which talks about the education, like if we see the right of women, this is Article 38. In sub-Article 5, the statement is like that women shall have the right to special opportunity in the spheres of education, health. Education is there. Similarly, I have tried to extract from the Constitution. These are the statements in constitutions which are directly not under the education section. These are scattered in other sections as well. This is this state policies. Similarly, there are different ways it is being stated. Then Constitution schedules. This is annexes. Annexer. This 5, 6, 7, 8. I already have talked with that. Then Local Government Operation Act. Let me tell one story. Before that, before this Constitution, the schools who run up to the grade 12 was decided by the Kathmandu. The permission was given to the school by the ministerial level decisions. Now, that authority is gone to the local level, meaning that 753 local units are there. They can decide, they can run, they can open school as per their own decisions. Meaning that huge revolution is there. We are talking about capacity and standardization. That is also issue, but these 23 authorities are being provided to the local government in relation to the school education and other education. These are in the Local Government Operation Act. Then intergovernmental fiscal transfer, it talks two things. Grant to the lower level government. People may not like lower level government, but I'm saying, sorry for that, is a federal, state and provincial and local level. Then it also talk about the revenue sharing. These two things are the major tools which are being stated in the Intergovernmental Fiscal Arrangement Act. And based on this act, the budget of our the finance minister has declared budget in last week. Based on these, there are 4 types of grants. There are issues. If federal government will provide a conditional grant to the local level, whatever the critics is about their own autonomy. Conditional grant means they have to follow the conditions. If grant is tied with the condition, then they will have less autonomy. Such things are there. This is quite complicated, but every government has their own revenue and borrowings and intergovernmental fiscal transfer, local and provincial government. Schools have the opportunity. They may get fund from federal government, provincial government, and local government. But that is one side. In the meantime, another side of the story is, if they get fund from federal government and their accountability lies towards home, the question is there. Because money, giving money to the institution is also linking with the accountability. That's the thing. These are the VAT and excise duties are also being will also be distributed. 70% total VAT will be divided in such a way that 70% for the central federal treasury, 15% for the provincial treasury. Then it will be distributed to 7 provinces. Similarly, 15% to the local treasury, then it will be distributed to the 753 treasuries. This is not, 15% is not for the one government. This is for the 753 government. Similarly, the natural resources are also being divided. Then government's work division and regulation, this is there. And it has also facilitating the implementation of this, we call it in Nepali, Nepal Sarkar Karya Sampadhan Niyamawali, and that is also there. Then what's challenges? The question is about me. I am being governed by 3 governments. I am living in Bhaktapur, Kausalta. You know, I need to pay tax to the local government. Tomorrow probably they may ask, provincial government may also ask me, and federal government will certainly ask because I am working with the Ministry of Education. Then same land and same people are being governed by the 3 levels of government, meaning that are we talking about the lean and clean government, or are we talking about the more and bigger government? That's the one issue. Then culture of cooperation, coexistence and coordination. I mean, that could be the, if sometimes we have also experienced that there is a conflict of interest, and but by law, government of Nepal deserves the authority to provide the instruction. Now, being in the Ministry of Education, I cannot write a letter to the Provincial Ministry of Education. And it has to be through the, if there are issues in relation to the education, it should go to the federal cabinet, then cabinet can issue instruction to the provincial education ministry, provincial cabinet, then education ministry. Sometimes routes are a bit longer way, like if we talk mobile, though we are here in 2 rooms, the mobile signals need to go somewhere else and again come back in nearby routes. The same thing may happen in our practices as well. Then I don't want to blame other people. My mindset and attitude of directors. I'm being trained in 25 years in the federal centralized structure. By saying in a word, I may say many things, but in practice it's very difficult to be decentralized or human being by themselves. Then how can we meet the aspiration of peoples? I mean, there is high expectation from the elected peoples. It's very difficult because we did not have local elections since long. Then how can we create the structure at different levels? Now, tasks are gone to the local level. Structures could be in the provincial and federal level. That means task and structure, responsibility and structure, if they do not match each other, then how can we generate the resources to meet the gap? Then within a year, I mean, we do not have even a year. By February 2019, we need to have all these acts. Though the positive thing is that there is a single majority government, and it will be an easier one than in the past what we experienced. But preparing law is with the same level of mindset of the bureaucracy. It's not easy task to prepare the different laws. Sometimes we need to come beyond the box, which is not easy one. Then the greatest problem what we are facing, how can we maintain the balance between running and development cost? If we see education budget, 70% will go for the salary. Then out of 30%, textbooks are there, scholarships are there, school construction are there, midday meals are there. Very little money remains for the development, other development quality related costs. Though that can be linked with the quality, but management and operation cost for some years will be increased certainly. Then again this ICT, educational material, infrastructure, and that's another one is, and this internal migration, what I have referred here, we have good schools in mid-hill region, in the rural areas. Now, internal migration, people move to the urban center areas or city areas in that places. Meaning, these facilities are empty right now. And no use of all these infrastructure, and very few number of students are there, though we should run school there. Then we need to construct the other in the district headquarters, and that may demand the additional resources. Then infrastructure, how can we develop? In 2018 means it was before 1950s, let's say this way. King Mahendra has declared this, at that time it was called Gaon Panchayat. And in 1950s it was declared, only, I read somewhere else, only 20% Gaon Panchayat, that political unit have their one building. Others are not. Meaning that in 50 years we were not able to construct the office building for that political unit which was established in Panchayat area. Then now we have 753 local units. District headquarters buildings were there, but we cannot use these buildings at this moment. I mean, there will be an excess of infrastructure at the district headquarters. This is in one political unit right now. Then we need to construct buildings and other infrastructure in other places, which demands the huge resources. Now I will finish right now. Then downsizing the federal level organizations and employees is another problem. Then capacity. There is one saying that if this is the big dilemma in Nepal. If we capacitate our people, they will leave the government job. If we do not capacitate them, service delivery will be weak. Then what should we do? That's the big challenge we are facing at this moment. And those people which are probably sources will know, and province, and I don't know how much can be. Those people who have worked in EMI section of ministry and department, they are not in the system right now. Because these people who are champion to play with the data, they can project, and they have good ICT, and at least good ICT in the context of Nepal. And if you know, if these people are not knowledgeable, they cannot run that program. If they are, some of the people are working in UNESCO, in other places as a consultant. That's the big thing. These capacities. It means that always government will be maybe in a weaker position if we cannot retain the good quality staff. Then digital gap is becoming, now we have some sort of whiteboard in some of the schools in our classes. Now the interactive board appear on the way to the whiteboard. Then again we need to replace them. Then that could be another resource demanding factor for us. Then I'm optimistic as well. This could be a fresh start. We can start in a fantastic way if we do the things in a wiseful manner, like what we explained, the earthquake at that time, and that would be the good planning, urban planning for the country. And but we need to change our mindset and work culture. Then there are issues about the fiscal discipline. In financing, what we call that, the excess the number of joint in a pipe, drinking water supply pipe, there will be a chances of high leakage. That's the phenomenon. So we do have, till now in the education if we talk about, we were not able to provide accountant to the schools. those who keep the records, I mean this financial record, expenditure, income and all these things. I mean our colleagues to some extent are working in a very vulnerable situation because head teacher, they do have this idea about procurement, and now what we can do if we are able to provide in such account staff in 753 units, that can be a bit closer than past to support the school teachers to maintain the account and all these things. And there are good practices what we have observed. Resources, internal resources are being identified and mobilized, and they are trying to prioritize the resources, and from their own way they have also invested in education. Some of the mayors and chief are very knowledgeable and very proactive. They are giving high priority for the social sectors, meaning that other people, other local unit may also copy later on. This is 1 year they have spent, and tomorrow we need to survive in a coordination and harmonization between the government. There are good symptoms of competition in positive ways are also being observed, but there are some other examples as well. Then quality services, competition are also being increased, and then if we tomorrow certainly in the beginning all these elected bodies they say that we have authority to formulate the bill. Now after a year what they are saying, when do we provide the federal framework? Meaning that the understanding level is being increased, and they are asking the model law. There is a provision federal government should provide the model law, and they are asking the federal education bill, and I am asking with them, why are you asking such bills? Meaning that we are also drafted something, but that should not be differing with the federal law. This is written in the constitution. So such level of understanding are increasing there. That could be the opportunity what I have been experiencing. These are the points for today. I know that these are quite in order, and these are not in a chaotic way, but we can have a discussion, and the feedback from this expert group will be very useful while we craft the education bill and write the education bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Marisa. That was very rich and very, very informative. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions and comments from colleagues. So we've got enough time to take the discussion forward. So maybe we should take 2 questions at a time, and then Harisa will respond, or 2 comments if you like. When you ask your questions, can you introduce yourself, who you are, which organization you come from, and then ask your questions, please.
My last message, excuse me, I'm going to ask you in Nepali because I have posted my presence here on the Facebook, and somebody from Nepal has asked 2 questions to ask you. May I do that? May I do that in Nepali, please?
Yeah. For the benefit of other...
I will translate later, or you can translate later in English. I will leave it up to you. मैले चाहिँ हजुरले यहाँ प्रेजेन्टेसन गर्दै हुनुहुन्छ भनेर मैले यो स्लाइड लिएर आएको थिएँ, अनि मलाई एकजना साथीले के सोध्नुभयो भने, अघि तपाईँले पनि भन्नुभएको थियो नि, 1 कक्षामा पढ्दाखेरि यति धेरै विद्यार्थी हुन्छन्, 10 कक्षामा पढ्दाखेरि चाहिँ यति थोरै हुन्छन् भन्नुभएको थियो। तपाईँ अब त्यति ठुलो ओदामा हुनुहुन्छ, विद्यावारिधि गर्नुभएको छ यही विषयमा, भनेपछि तपाईँले यसलाई घटाउनको लागि के कति काम गर्नुभएको छ, र अब तपाईँले चाहिँ त्यसलाई त्यस्तो हुन नदिन त्यस्तो के उपायहरू अपनाउनु भएको छ, एउटा कुरा। दोस्रो कुरा चाहिँ नेपालमा को पाठ्यक्रममा अहिले यस्तो छ अरे, विद्यार्थीहरूले भोट बढ्यो भने नेपालको मेचीदेखि महाकाली कुन जिल्ला पर्छ भनेर रङ लगाएर छुट्याउन सक्दैनन्, तर अमेरिकामा कुन राज्य, कतिवटा 50वटा राज्य छन्, युरोप कुन देश कहाँ पर्छ भन्ने खालको कुराहरू चाहिँ उनीहरूले पढ्नुपर्छ अरे। त्यो रेलेभेन्स छ कि छैन भने चाहिँ किन त्यस्तो राखियो भनेर उहाँले प्रश्न गर्नुहुन्छ।
I'll leave it up to you to translate this. Right, okay, so the first question was that the number of children who start in the primary level, by the time they reach 10th grade, the vast majority of them drop out of education. There's like 67% actually drop out of education. And the question is, because you've worked with the Ministry of Education for such a long period of time, what have you done in order to reduce that, that crisis? And that was the first question. And the second question was, in terms of the curriculum, that Nepali children are increasingly learning about the US, how many states are there in the US, and they're able to tell on the map which state is where, whereas their knowledge about their own districts within Nepal is quite rudimentary. So from that point of view, in terms of the national relevance of the curriculum that is being offered to children, what does that tell us about what kind of education we are providing? Is that a fair translation?
More than enough.
Okay, so maybe you'd like to respond, because that would be the two questions.
I think certainly that colleague who asked the questions have gone through the statistics. What I have analyzed, these 67% was, I made one presentation where the UNESCO was organized in Kathmandu, this global monitoring report, accountability in education, which was a disclosure of that report, and I made that presentation. And I'll come with this efficiency issue first. If you see the primary level to lower secondary level, things are being changed. The transition rate, we call it transition rate to lower secondary level. It's almost 80–90% are reached there. And we should not forget that efficiency, internal efficiency rate before 10 years, it was 41%. Now it went above the 75%. If you see the investment side, 1 year investment may not result in education, it takes time. What I did, I tried to calculate investment from 2000 to 2015, and I tried to compare it with the results. This 15 years investment in education resulted improvement in primary education only. So this is not quite remarkable, but this data, 67% is for up to the grade 10. If we go to the grade 12, which is the India of school education, it would be in about 15–17% again. But if we come down to the grade 6, this is resulted about 89 point something are being enrolled in grade 8. And what I did, that individual questions may not have value, because people may explain that from their own way. My concern is that I'm trying to clean my dishes from myself. That's the thing. In my table, I try to do things from my way. Then curriculum issue is, I don't know about if you see statistics, that could be very interesting. In grade 12, there are only 60 students are studying geography in grade 12. Meaning that our university geography classes is going to be closed. Out of 60, how many will pass and how many will go to the university? That's the miserable thing. And what we realized is we need to, in Nepal, everybody would like to make their son or daughter either medical doctor or engineer, but they will ask questions about geography again. They will send their children in science history. The question will be about the geography, liberal arts, humanities, and all these things. If you see the statistics, 14% to 16% are enrolled in science in grade 11. Though we do not have a stream, but in practice there are. And 36% in management, and about 36–37% in education, and humanities number are being very less in number. So this national curriculum framework is adding one compulsory subject. Though there are comments in the social media, this is life skill. those graduates who complete school education must have one skill in their hand. Now we have been introducing that subject. It could be geography, it could be other aspects. Then new curriculum framework is being included, such thing. But of course, relevancy, I was also raising that issue. Relevancy became one of the great issues in Nepal, and I do ask one question. They secure A grade in social study. Grade A, score A must mean that their behavior should also be in a standard level. But they do have very less social skills and other things. This is not the fault of curriculum. This could be the fault of, that's the way we have a delivery, the way we are teaching, we teach and teach our students, and that thing. And this, we have a national achievement of student assessment result. If you see that result, miserable thing is that student learning achievements are not being increased. And that indicates, we had discussion with Ravin in few days, and what I learned from this visit is that we thought school is only the decisive factor to increase the learning achievement. But from our study, what we came to know that school alone is not sufficient to raise the learning achievement, meaning that socio-economic status, home, environment. There are studies from UNESCO, UNICEF, the 4-5 things should combine together: child himself or herself, family, household, school environment, curriculum, assessment, all these things are there. But this learning achievement shows us that school is not only the decisive factor, though school is the major factor, but the school can not only produce the good result, socio-economic status also matters. These are the things there. This curriculum can bring changes in our teachers' practices. Maybe parental involvement increases there, and we hope that our relevancy of the curriculum will be increased. That's the thing.
You are the person to fix this as the Secretary of Education. Ministers keep changing all the time, every 4 years. But you are the career education person. So if you cannot fix it 20, 30-year career, you think some minister who works for 4 years will be able to fix this? And what is your strategy to fix this?
I'm not saying that minister can fix it. There is a good debate about guidance. I should cite in sociology the debate about actors and agency. Sometimes actors will be powerful than agency, and sometimes agency will be powerful than actor. So that debate is there. But I do also have responsibility, but I do not want to blame to others, as they are only responsible for that. Being in such position in terms of education status has the collective responsibility. What we achieve, this is because of all our efforts, and what we are not achieving, this is because of our weaknesses. That is clear. I am clear on that, and I should take that responsibility. Whatever share will remain to me. But it does not mean that this is because of only bureaucrats. We should not forget we have a long political transition. You have a study on this, and political transition is a mega thing, this big theory will always have big influence on the educational sector. I can give one example to you, like that in our Education Act, there is one provision for Rural Education Development Fund. But in the meantime, this economic bill came with the 1% tax to the private schools. The Rural Education Fund was supposed to collect the money from private schools, then it has to be redistributed to the rural areas people. But all of a sudden, economic bill appeared there, and it is included the 1% tax for student. Meaning, if we compare both acts are passed by the parliament. But economic bill, we call it Arthik Ain. Economic bill is the superior than the education bill, because economic bill is the overall fundamental one. The education bill is the sectoral. these things are there, it does not mean that Nepal has not achieved anything. If we see the similar economies, if we see the progress, if we track the similar economies progress, we are in good position. I should say that one. We should not compare it with the UK. I mean, we should do it. We should get more, but we should not also forget that we should also compare it with the similar economies of these old countries. If we compare education data, we are not in weaker than these economies. Sorry for that. This is not. I know that this is not the good answer to you, but I should say.
Yeah, but also I think you're talking about the system as a problem.
I think guidance sociology would be appropriate to discuss agency and act of leadership.
Okay, thank you.
Julia? Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm Julie Ballard. I'm from the University of Sheffield. And I actually work in health policy and health systems, so not education at all. But I found this really helpful. I found this really helpful, thank you. So I've got two questions, if I may. One is very specific. I'm curious to know what's going to happen to the district level kind of structures. Are they going to be abolished, or how is that going to, play out in the transition? And then also your, maybe based on your experience and your knowledge and background, what your sort of thoughts are about cross-sectoral lessons, so things that you've just been talking about, like the education sector is, as I said, very interesting and helpful to me as someone working in the health sector. So how do you see this kind of cross-sectoral lessons or not playing out?
No, I on that first, second question in the past, everybody wants to expand their own hegemony. We had a lot of discussion while creating structure at the provincial level and local level. Nobody wants to lose their own structure. But this is not the federalization. As the government came up with their one decision, and probably they have consulted with the people who are not in the Ministry of Education, it could be. Because from Ministry of Education side, I mean, I don't want to blame other people. If I was there, I always said I need district structures should be there, and local structures should be there, provincial structures should be expanded. I mean, this is not the way Constitution demands. With regard to the education, we have one section, one unit at the Chief District Administrator's Office to coordinate the exam function. With regard to the health, as I know that until July 15, there are district structures are there. Then after government has to make new decision on health sector, but education sector, we do not have independent office at the district level. We have one unit whose role is to just coordinate about the exam function. Because it would be very difficult to register students from 753 units, directly contacting to the National Examination Board at the center. We have a small unit at the, we call it CDO, meaning that Chief District Administrator Office. That thing, cross-sectoral thing, and that's where while creating the structure by the government, they establish a rule norms. And they have created organization structure at the local level, provincial level, and federal level. And what I'm saying earlier, this may not be the appropriate for the long term. Certainly there will be a revision of this structure, because last week the government budget finance minister has proposed every local government unit will have at least 50-bed hospital, something like that. Now the structure may include, let's take an example, 10 staff or 5 staffs at the local level from that sector. And we cannot imagine that 50-bed hospital can be run by the 5 staff. Then certainly there will be a more same case, maybe the further education as well. So certainly there will be a revision. Province number 5 has started to revisit the organizational structure. The given structure, their voice is like that. The given structure is not suitable for them. In some areas, they need to cut down the structure, they need to downsize it. In some areas, they are aiming to expand the structure. That may happen at the local government level in the days to come as well.
were you thinking about how health and education could jointly be working in new structure? Or what do you actually mean by cross-sectoral?
I guess my question was, I mean that was really helpful, thank you. I think my question was about, obviously it's a massive period of change, and there'll be a lot of lessons learned among difference within the different sectors, and what sort of capacity will there be, or what sort of opportunity will there be for joint learning? Yeah.
Okay. Right, great.
Namaste, my name is Surchis. I work for an organization called Oxford Policy Management, which is a research-based policy institute. So we've actually just been doing a study on service delivery, particularly in education in a decentralized context. So I've spent many hours with Hari Saini's office recently. So I have a few questions and comments, so please bear with me. First, Simon, thank you for a very engaging presentation. I particularly enjoyed your reflexivity because I think as a starting point, that's a good place to start about how the system has also shaped the bureaucrats, and I think it will take time to overturn that, but it's an important first step to begin that process. I also like your formulation of sort of order and chaos important, particularly because we've spent a number of weeks now in the grassroots, and there's definitely chaos there. Even the bureaucrats and elected officials at the local level admit that there's a lot of chaos in terms of sort of lack of rules and regulations, in terms of the number of staff to actually deliver these functions in a context where the district offices are no longer in place, and also in terms of the capacity of that staff to deliver things like design policy and then implement it and monitor it, monitor the financing as well. So the number of functions is also quite significant. So there is a lot of chaos. In that context, I wanted to ask 2 or 3 questions. One is actually related to the District Education Development and Coordination Unit, which was interestingly missing from the framework itself. To an observer from the outside, that seems almost like cheating to try and get it into the system under the CDO's office, for instance. Perhaps an easier home would be somewhere like the provincial government, which is part of the different tiers of the Constitution, as opposed to the CDO's office or the District Coordination Committee. So it would be useful to hear your thoughts on particularly whether this is seen as a long-term solution to even the problem of exam coordination, or is this a transitional arrangement that will change over time. Second, I've really been curious to understand where this concept of exclusive rights for education at the local level comes from, even in the Constitution. I've struggled to find examples even globally where education rights have been decentralized to this level anywhere. So not just Harisar, but if others have examples of where education decentralization has taken place to this level, that would be quite useful to know, because I have not been able to trace yet where that comes from in our Constitution. And I think that relates a little bit to your question earlier about education and health, because there's a big difference there already, because in health, only 70% of the budget is devolved to the local level, 30% is still retained at the central level. So there are opportunities for sort of policy making and monitoring to take place in health elsewhere. But in education, that does not seem to be the case. I think in terms of coordination again as well, both health and education sit under the Ministry of Social Development in the provincial level now. So I think the opportunity for coordination is actually possibly increased, whereas before they were through different line ministries. And then finally, just a question on your comment about the conditional grant. I wondered if even in education, the funding that is going through the conditional grant for things like teachers and the textbooks and scholarships, again, is that a transitional arrangement, and we would expect over time that funding would only be through the equalization grant? Or are we expecting that the conditional grant will stay even after the transition period for the education sector? Sorry, I know there were a few things there.
Good. So you've got plenty of questions to answer.
I mean, that's good for me as well. This exclusive right of the local government, that is a political thing. It can, though we were there in discussion, but once the constitutions came in this way, I don't think so. Like a bureaucrat is me, and we can discuss on these issues. These are the politically derived things, this exclusive right. Individually, if we are talking, people may say that no, it should not be in this way, but like as a apparatus of the government, we should say that how can we support local government to carry out such a role. And that is one thing. Conditional grant, this is reflected in the Intergovernmental Fiscal Transfer Act. So I mean, if we see other countries' experiences as well, they are trying to implement the national norms and standards through grants modality. We can take example from the USA, or we can take example from India, and there are other countries as well. We also, if you ask me, we need all three strong government. But sometimes the question is about making local government much stronger does not mean that weakening the federal government. So this conditional grant concept, if we say no child left behind, I mean, even in the USA more than me, then this is reflected in the act. But what will happen tomorrow? Now the teachers are recruited centrally. If you see the Nepali law, the terms and conditions cannot be changed in the middle of your career. It cannot be less than what it was in the beginning when they enter into the profession. So tomorrow what will happen? Local government will have their own cadre in teaching position. Though licensing and examinations will be sorted out by law, once they will have their own cadre, the federal government will certainly will reduce the conditional grant under the teacher salary. It will go to the equalization grant. But nowadays, the teacher 100, almost 47,000 teachers throughout the country in different levels, they are the federal government cadre till now. Everybody are the federal government cadre. Now we cannot say that automatically you became the local government cadre because they came with the different laws and it has to be adjusted. That's why we call it Civil Service Adjustment Bill. Same thing will be appear in the Teacher Adjustment Bill as well. This DDC unit, there was a lot of discussion in the why education unit is being annexed in the CDO office. If we see, CDO office is the federal government unit. So there are discussion whether it should be under the provincial government or federal government. And our intention was it should be kept in the district coordination committee. But Constitution has not given mandate for that committee to execute the central government function. 4 or 5 functions are listed in the Constitution for this District Development Coordination Committee. So that part was kept in the CDO office, and this is not the transitional arrangement. Tomorrow it may have new structure, but this is the government decision, and their role is not too much, just exam function coordination, teacher standard performance, all this coordination. These are the things. I know that my answers will not satisfy you, but these are the only space for me to say to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah.
Since I represent an NGO working to improve the education system of Nepal, I would just.
And what's your name?
Samad Sherpa. I just arrived today in London, and I'm happy to be.
Why don't we discuss in Kathmandu?
So my question is. You were talking about the responsibility of citizens towards the local, provincial, and state government, and the dilemma that, as a public, that we have. Like, what are the responsibilities? Or just you presented the example of the taxation and of what things we are gonna do as a public. So my question is, as an organization or an NGO that's working in Nepal, where do you find the position of the NGOs? Like, how are they supposed to be responsible at the local, state level, and the central level government? Because when we were working during the post-earthquake crisis, we saw like, it was so difficult for us to collaborate with the local and the central government, because it took us to build a school. It took us 3 months to build a school, but it took us about 3.5 months or 4 months to collaborate with the central government or with the local government to pass the necessary or do the necessary paperwork. So how do you find it in terms of the federal system?
Thank you. That's a very interesting and important question. Can I take another question and then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Bedas Parajuli. Before I was also involved in Ministry of Education. Now I'm retired.
Why don't you respond some of the work?
I think this is a new step Nepal is doing. It's a great challenge and opportunity definitely there. When something new comes, definitely there is not maybe all things clear. Even learn by practice. I think Nepal also do after the practice. I think they will make clear. I think there are so many things you mentioned. Very nice information and excellent presentation. Anything you make clear, try to make clear. Well, I want to know two things. At this moment, how we can deliver the budget allocation of a budget for the school? How we are doing? Going to the by per child allocation or just to go to the number of schools? How we delivering the economic system? How can they get the budget in the schools? And another thing, there are different local bodies are doing their own job, but who control their quality? What we can do now, we are proposing, I haven't seen anything. If you have anything, can you mention it? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think I can refer with regard to your question, I can refer. Yesterday, though I was here, there was a training program for the parliamentarian with the support of UNDP. I don't know how many of you are following the Nepali news media. There was a huge debate in the social media, meaning that is there necessary to get the support from UNDP to train the parliamentary? And our speaker was also made clear about it. She just paper and pencil, and there was also a bag, something like that. So this indicates that terms and responsibilities of even international organizations or national organizations should be made clear. Now you are doing good job. I know that you are doing good job, but there are many more. I can give one example. When during the earthquake, after the earthquake, there was influx of non-governmental organizations to construct the building. But later on, we had MOU with them, but most of them are disappeared after a while. Meaning that there was a big question about the credibility of the non-governmental organizations. Just they hold the school buildings to be constructed. Later on, then there was a tendency, there is a tendency, once they do have MOU, that could be one, I should say this would not appropriate, begging document to the international community. If they don't have money, why should they have MOU with the government agencies to construct the building? So that's why nowadays these non-governmental organizations matters are shifted to the Prime Minister's office, even not in Ministry of Education. Prime Minister's office will monitor all these things. They are going to establish, meaning that if you are giving good job, you can easily, if let's say that you are working with the Ministry of Education, if you are a problem, you can directly go to the Prime Minister's office and you can approach that desk and they can issue your instruction immediately. It will be easier to work. But if this is just an MOU, then that will be difficult even tomorrow. And state restructuring, second concerning, state restructuring does mean that restructuring of non-governmental organizations also. By sitting in Kathmandu, tomorrow the local government in Humla, they may not allow to keep the headquarters in Kathmandu. They may ask their headquarters either in Humla or Surkhet. The tendency, the mindset of all people, I gave example of mine, but if you see NGO working in a smaller area, we know that they do have not adequate resources, but their headquarters is in Kathmandu. their operating cost is too much high. I cannot share the name of donor and NGO, but it works because I am also financing background. I analyzed the operating cost, and there was an extension of MOU of that NGO, and then I asked total budget and all these things. Their operating cost was 86%. And only 14% are for the development cost. Let's see that.
How can they adopt it?
Nobody in Nepal, no NGO will disclose their salary. But our salary can be found easily in the government website. Let's see that. And then these NGOs are blaming government about the transparency issue. So we both should be changed.
If you're running the government, why can't the government stipulate the rules so that all the NGOs should, no NGO should have the headquarters in Kathmandu? They have to have it.
That's why we are going to impose the new rule. That
will be sorted, and they will have to have their office in rural areas, or they have to shut their offices.
And there are good NGOs also. We should not blame to all in one basket. There are good things are doing. They are constructed schools. They are working with the community. We should not treat all of them in the same manner. Just what we did, we have not renewed the MOU of that NGO, whose running cost was 86%. We have not renewed.
Actually, even in the UK, I think all the big charities, their administrative cost is almost 75%. Very high.
But in our case, management cost for the Nepal government is about 3 to 4%. This is standards. If this is more than 5%, we reviewed our program and we downsized the issues. Management costs would not be, if we include salary and all these teachers, it could be higher, but management does mean that running costs, vehicle, AC, fan, and all these things. For the Ministry of Education, this is 3.5 something else about the management cost.
So why 97%, if you have 97% involved in all the development, why Nepal is not developed yet?
I think we should have
be right.
I mean,
why are we like this?
I guess that's a big question. We here for hours. I think there was another question from Devraj's question. Devraj asked
allocation of budget, allocation of budget, we have fiscal commission. They will develop formula. Nowadays, commission is yet to be set. There are only structures are being created and bureaucrats are employed there. But we do not have nomination from the government. This is constitutional body. Tomorrow they will develop formula. It is still not decided. That formula will dictate. Now Ministry of Finance alone cannot allocate the budget to the provinces and local government. It should be based on the, if you see the law, I have given just reference there, it should be based on the certain formula. That commission may also provide some indication to the provincial and local government to allocate funds to the schools. Tomorrow, I mean, this is the federation does mean that they should control by themselves as well. Federal government can issue standard norms, and they should govern by themselves with regard to the fiscal matter, economic matter. I mean, every local government has to follow the recommendation of the fiscal commission. This would be the formula to allocate the budget tomorrow. They may allocate, I mean, these are also people, they may not have rational and adequate justification for that, but they should follow the things, and we cannot think we should directly give instruction to them. In 5 years, after 5 years, they may lose their own job. That's the thing. If there are irregularities, I mean, there are constitutional bodies they can track. They can, like CIA, this Commission of Investigation of Abuse of Authority, and there are other bodies as well, and they can get the complaint and they can investigate. That is not prevented. But in terms of governance, we should not think that every local government will get a issuing instruction letter or something from the line ministries as it was in the past. That's the thing. Even dilemma is there. Let's say in the local government, deputy mayor is the chief of the justice committee there. You know, chief of the committee who look after the justice at the local level. So in law it is not mentioned. If she is related with that matter, will look it.
And it's always going to be C, right?
Yeah.
It's a woman.
I mean, now in the case...
Constitutionally, it has to be woman? Unless the chair is a woman, in which case it can be a
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, mostly there is a C.
Yeah. So practically,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, it has to be, the law, it has to be modified or adjusted in some laws. Because if she is or he is involved in that case, like in a court, if the issue, the problem is related with the judge, then he or she is not entitled to look after that issue. The same thing is there, but this is not mentioned in the Local Government Operation Act. That has been realized. I hope that will be changed by the Parliament in appropriate time.
Okay, so there are a few questions. Minji and Ranji.
Thank you very much. Your nice presentation. So you are talking about many things about
you said.
Mindana, former usual IOE student. Yeah. So you are talking about many things about constitution, rules and regulation and policy framework. If we looking backward, in Nepal, a lot of policy already put in place, but still we don't know yet how many months or years it will take to formulate these so-called act, rules and regulations. So I'm a little bit concerned about the bottom level, about the school, where the actual activity will happen in a school, inside the classroom, teacher. If this transitional thing will, let's say for example, going on for 5 years, how this school is continuing with the same direction, or will take care about this school? For example, either this municipality or BTC or provincial or federal, number one. Number two is the private sector, institutional schools are performing very well. But why the government is not giving conducive environment in terms of how they perform, why it doesn't replicate to the communities?
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm Naran Bhattacharya from Royal Holloway University of London. My question is regarding to the quality assurance of Nepalese education, that's from the private level to higher education level. We can see that in different countries there are autonomous bodies who do monitor, the academic quality. But in the context of Nepal, is there any room for the autonomous quality assurance body according to new constitution, while structuring different level of education from centralized provision to the decentralized power, and so how it could be addressed with the new policy. The second one, I like the way you explained the demand side and the supply side about balancing schools establishment in Nepal. Is there any policy in the future to trade off those kind of problems?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, Minji from Chitwan, I know that there are good schools. Why not you cite the model schools in Chitwan, Narangarh, Bharatpur, and there are so many schools in Chitwan. This is the centrally located. I mean, if you see statistics, only I can cite your report, you have mentioned 17% in an average, 18% right, is private education in Nepal. Tejendra Sir has done one study for the education international. This is private education in Nepal, but it varies. Primary, lower secondary, and secondary. In an average, we can say that 17 to 18% students are in private schools. Rest, 83, 84% are even in public school right now. We have handful number of public schools who are delivering good quality education. But government should not say that even one school should not be below the standard. So we are trying to make it. We are trying to improve it. But if you see the reality, sometimes we should not forget our one reality. only 20% teachers are being selected by the Teacher Service Commission till now. Who should we blame? Only 20%. There is Teacher Service Commission which was established in 1998. If I am not wrong, 2007, 1999, something. Only 20%, less than 20% teachers are selected by the Teacher Service Commission. In 1990, we have democracy, restoration of democracy. We all, either one or another way, we all were there. And there was a teacher who worked for 1 year, all teachers were made permanent. Who should take that responsibility? Being as a bureaucrat, I should take it. But we all were there, our relatives were there. We forgot all these issues.
Our leaders were there.
Our leaders were there. Nobody said at that time this is wrong. The same thing happened. The teachers' conflict were there, and several times we have, a negotiation with the teacher. Chandika sir is there, he knows very well. Several times we did it. And what we did not do it till now is, let's finish this story and try to take the teacher from fresh cadres. That we did not do it. As a legacy, I should take that responsibility. What you saw, you should not, you don't need to take it. Whatever the government made decision in 1990, I mean, that may not be the good one, but as an institutional memory, we did it. Whether it was wrong or right, it has gone only 20%. So now what we are thinking, once we clear the backlog of the primary teachers, once we clear the backlog of the temporary teachers, then there will be a fresh start of the new recruitment. We started in 2007, that process, when we have interim constitution. Then what happened at that? The prime concern of the country is the Constituent Assembly election. At the cost of country's political setup, now we should not do exam this time. This is not either or, I mean, we should see at the cost of what? Then that hampered our education system since during this transition. That's why these teachers we are going to recruit through competitive exam. Even 9th Amendment in education, there was a big blame, even to me. I am in favor of teachers, people are saying this way, 9th Amendment made in favor of teachers. So let's take it because of the state side. There are teachers who are working 24 years in temporary way. We should see the another side of the coin as well. There were not regular advertisement, but in another side, they were not able to pass in the competitive examination. They failed several times, but government should not say, government in the cost of Constituent Assembly and other election, these things were compromised. Now government has made a bold decision. There will be a free competition and internal competition as well, and I hope soon there will be an advertisement for both. Then we will have regular teacher competition examination, and we can get the good qualified teacher. There are schools, private sector are not doing good job, all private sector, private schools. If we ask statistics with me, 50% private schools are below the standard. By sitting outside, you may have such perception that one private school has 7,000 students. If you see the result of SEE, that may have good result and all these things. The caption and caption, they agree that 40%, 50% schools are below the standard. Now, the grade 9 enrollment is being increased dramatically in schools, in good public schools. Meaning that up to the grade 8, they are there in private schools, then grade 9, they can be there. We can see the story from both sides, but like if I can cite one school, this Butol Kalika Mali, which have 5,500 students enrolled this year in one secondary school. But we should not say that all schools are in that quality. If you see in Kathmandu, there could half of the schools in secondary schools are doing good job. If we are counting only student number, that is kind of issue. But if you see the delivery, the way, I can give you example from another side. I have prepared one paper in my PhD requirement about the private school. Where are these graduates? Most of the private school graduates are not for Nepal. They have gone. They have gone abroad always. Let's see, last year 50,000 students took the, this no objection letter from the ministry. If you see the contribution of educated and uneducated people in Nepal, Nepal's economy is being surviving right now from those countries who are in Gulf and Malaysia. The educated people are in Europe, America, UK, Australia. The contribution to the country is very low in terms of economic contribution. How can we explain it? I mean, we should see being as an academician, we should see the story from all angles. This is not that we are sitting in London, and it does not mean that we have huge contribution there. The contribution, more contribution is being paid by the people who are working in 50-degree temperature in the, it does not mean that they are only doing, we people are not doing. Both stories are there. And with regard to the quality, we should also come out that mind. I do not say that this is quality control, quality assurance. It's from this total quality management from Japanese style. I mean, this is common everywhere. Now we should think about the assurance by everybody. The quality control from the Ministry of Education or from the federal government is the concept of unitary governance. The concern should be how can they ensure their own quality. If not, they will be penalized in next election. If they are abusing the power, it will be looking by the other authorities. But we as a citizen, one mayor, he asked me about how can I remove the old teacher. I mean, his intention was not bad. And what, as a citizen, what I said to him, no, you cannot do it. Because they were recruited in the past law, which is even alive right now. They came with that law. Once federal government will have new law, then they can go home with the golden handshake or with other problems. You cannot say you should not come tomorrow to join your office. This will be the autocratic regime. And later on you realize that we should have some incentives, incentivize the structure. Quite old teacher may go what we did in the past in the name of teacher redeployment. Those teachers which were not in position of good performance, what they said, so you have worked in this school about 30 years. Now there will be a regular rotation of transfer. You should go in the remote areas. Would you like to go there, or is there any option? Means voluntarily they left the job, they gave resignation, and we manage the teaching position in this way. But though this is not good, but we should convince in that way this demand side. Let's see one example. Sometimes public policy it looks like one way, but result will be different. We have school merging policy. What did happen? Some of our colleagues promoted school merging policies. Once we merge the school in the urban areas, this is the automatic space for the private schools. Are we expanding the private school? Though in policy it is not expanding the private schools. But if we merge the public school in the city area, automatically private schools will be expanded. I read one article in Newsweek about the George Bush and Hugo Chavez in Bolivia, Venezuela. That was Bush won the election in Venezuela, something like that. Because the slogan from Hugo Chavez was, if I lost the election referendum, Bush will win the election. That was there. And ultimately the major state he lose the election referendum at that time. And Newsweek has written like this way: Bush won the election without spending even a penny there. Like the school merging was the same case for us. Now, we are not in favor of merging public schools. Rather, we are promoting the public schools. There are, if you like to see, there are schools in Buranilgantha, there are schools in other areas which are reviving gradually, the number of students are increased, we are changing the management position. I mean, local government has changed the management position and things are getting gradually improved. And I saw in newspaper yesterday in Dang, there was debate about the school merging, and one colleague called me even in a Bible, and we talk about if you merge the would you favor private school or public school? He told me that we favor public school. So why you are creating space for the private schools? Let's prepare some intervention for the public school in a way that, if we strengthen the public school, private schools will not be expanded after this, and we are in such a position to do so.
Okay, so I think we're coming to an end, but we'll have a lot of time because I can see food and drinks and every exciting stuff is popping in. So we'll have time to interact while we are here and enjoying drinks and food. So I think that's a good way to do, I guess. So I have to finish the formal session. I must thank Dr. Robin Shields from University of Bath for making this event possible by sponsoring food and bringing Harizi here. Thank you, Robin. Also, I want to thank Ganesh Khatka, who is filming the video so that a lot of colleagues who are not here would be willing to listen to the discussion and the presentation today. So thank you, Ganesh, for filming the So
one small correction. I am here because of you as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, it was a very, very interesting discussion. I think this is a rare opportunity for us who are based here and are always interested in education in Nepal, are willing to support education in Nepal in different ways. And thank you for being here and providing that very thoughtful information and presentation. And so I think a round of applause to her. Okay. Yeah, please come in and yeah. So food is here. Please stay and join the discussions afterwards.